Snowflakes tumbled like tiny diamonds against the dark sky, falling harder with every passing second. In the heart of Manhattan, Christmas lights blinked on rooftops and laughter spilled from nearby restaurants. But high above the city, Miles Danner stood alone behind a wall of glass. The billionaire everyone admired for his empire now felt like a ghost in his own success. His penthouse glowed with the reflection of 1,000 lights, yet none could fill the space where his wife's voice used to echo. The loneliness felt louder than the storm. He lifted a glass of untouched wine, staring into the blur of snow when his phone buzzed. A soft alert from his security system. "Movement detected near the West Gate," he frowned. "At this hour?" He tapped the feed and froze. A small girl, no older than 7, was digging through the trash bins outside his gated driveway, her tiny hands trembling as she searched. Her coat was torn, her hair clumped with snow, and her lips moved silently, whispering something he couldn't hear. His chest tightened. A child out there alone on Christmas Eve. For a moment, the man who once made million-dollar decisions couldn't move. Then instinct took over. He threw on his coat, ignoring the warnings flashing on his phone. The cold bit his face as he stepped outside, boots crunching through snow. "Hey," he called gently. The girl flinched, clutching a piece of bread she'd found, her eyes wide with fear. "It's all right," Miles said softly. "You don't have to run." The girl hesitated, frozen between fear and exhaustion, her small frame trembling as wind swept her hair across her face. Miles took a cautious step closer, lowering his voice to a whisper that almost vanished in the snow. "You'll freeze out here. Let me help." She shook her head, clutching the bread tighter as if it were gold. "I'm fine," she whispered, her voice barely audible. But her lips were turning blue. Miles slipped off his gloves, showing empty hands. "My name's Miles," he said gently. "I live right there." He pointed toward the tall building behind him, its windows glowing faintly. "You can come in, just for a bit. Warm up." Her eyes darted to the door, then back to his face, searching for a lie she didn't find. The storm roared around them like a living thing, and a small cough escaped her lips before she nodded, almost in defeat. Miles led her through the gate, holding it open with care, as if she might vanish if he moved too fast. Inside, the warmth hit them instantly. She blinked at the golden lights, at the polished floor that reflected their shadows. "You can sit," Miles said, guiding her toward the fireplace. He poured hot chocolate, the smell filling the silence between them. When she took the mug, her hands shook, but she smiled weakly. "It's real," she murmured. "Tastes like home." Miles paused, the words cutting deeper than he expected. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "Lila," she said. "I didn't mean to bother anyone. I just got hungry." Miles crouched, meeting her eyes. "You didn't bother anyone," he said. "You reminded someone what Christmas is supposed to mean." The fire crackled, and for the first time in years, the room felt alive again. For a while they sat in silence, the storm outside muffled by the soft hum of the fireplace. Lila's gaze darted around the room, landing on a photo frame resting on the mantel. In it, a smiling woman held a little boy wearing a Santa hat. "Is that your family?" she asked quietly. Miles followed her eyes. "Yes," he said after a pause. "My wife and my son." His voice cracked slightly. "They're gone now." Lila's eyes softened. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He forced a faint smile, though his chest tightened. "You don't need to be, but thank you." She nodded, curling closer to the fire. My mom used to light candles on Christmas, she said. Said they helped angels find their way home. Miles felt something stir inside him, something he thought had frozen long ago. Maybe your mom was right, he said softly. Just then his phone buzzed again. A news alert flashed across the screen. Billionaire seen rescuing homeless child on Christmas Eve. His security cameras had caught everything. Within minutes, the story was spreading fast. Miles set the phone down, uneasy. He wasn't looking for attention. He'd only wanted to help. Lila noticed his expression. "Did I do something bad?" she asked, her small voice breaking. Miles immediately shook his head. "No, you did nothing wrong," he said gently. "Sometimes people just don't understand kindness anymore." But as he spoke, headlights flashed through the window. Someone had followed the story here. A shadow moved at the door. Then came the knock that would change everything. The knock echoed through the quiet penthouse, sharp and demanding, slicing through the warmth like a blade. Miles froze. Lila's small hands tightened around the mug, her eyes wide with fear. "It's okay," he said gently, though his heartbeat betrayed him. He walked toward the door, each step heavy with unease. When he opened it, two figures stood there, a woman in a long gray coat and a man holding a clipboard. "Mr. Danner?" the woman asked briskly. "Child Services. We received a report about a minor in your care." The words hit him harder than the cold wind. "You can't just—" he began, but Lila's quiet voice interrupted. "They always come," she whispered from behind him. "They always take me away." Miles turned, his chest tightening. "You've been through this before?" She nodded, tears pooling in her eyes. "They move me every time someone notices. They say it's safer, but it never feels that way." The agents exchanged glances, professional yet distant. "We need to make sure she's safe," the woman said. Miles straightened, his tone calm but firm. "She's safe. She's warm, fed, and cared for. Can you say that about where she was before?" The man hesitated, lowering his clipboard slightly. The woman cleared her throat. "This isn't personal, sir. It's procedure." Miles looked at Lila, who clung to her small cup like it was the only thing in the world that belonged to her. "Then maybe," he said softly, "it's time someone changed the procedure." The woman's expression flickered, a hint of compassion breaking through the formality. Outside, snow fell heavier, coating the city in silence, while inside, one man began to realize that saving a child wasn't the end of a story. It was the beginning of a fight he hadn't known he was meant to lead. The woman from Child Services hesitated, her pen hovering over the clipboard as if something in Miles's eyes made her unsure. He wasn't pleading, just standing there with quiet strength that came from something deeper than wealth. "Sir, we can't ignore the report," she said softly. "You're not on the foster list. She needs placement." Miles took a slow breath. "Then make me one," he replied firmly. "Check my records, call whoever you need, but I'm not letting her walk back into a shelter tonight." His words carried a weight that filled the entire room. Lila's gaze flickered between them, fear and hope fighting inside her small frame. "I can be good," she whispered, as if begging fate to stay kind this time. "You already are," Miles said, kneeling beside her. The woman looked away, her jaw tightening. "We'll need to confirm your intentions," she murmured. "Fine," he replied. "Stay and see what intention looks like." Hours passed while paperwork was made, calls were exchanged, and snow built a quiet fortress outside. When the clock struck midnight, the agents finally left, promising to return the next day. Miles watched the door close and exhaled deeply. Lila's small hand tugged his sleeve. "Are they coming back?" she asked. "Yes," he said honestly. "But we'll be ready." He tucked a blanket around her as she drifted toward sleep near the fireplace. As the last flame flickered, Miles whispered, "You're home now, Lila." His voice trembled not from fear but from something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. What he didn't know was that outside, cameras still rolled, and the world was about to see what one act of compassion could ignite. By morning, sunlight spilled across the marble floor, touching everything with gold. The storm had passed, but its memory lingered in the hush that filled the room. Lila stirred beneath the blanket, her hair tangled and her small hands curled against her cheek. Miles stood quietly, watching her breathe, realizing that for the first time in years, his house didn't feel like a museum. It felt alive. The smell of coffee mixed with the faint sweetness of cocoa still on the counter. Then his phone buzzed again, hundreds of missed notifications flashing across the screen. Headlines filled every feed. Billionaire gives homeless girl shelter on Christmas Eve. A miracle in Manhattan. He scrolled through messages from reporters, foundations, strangers offering to donate. For once he didn't care about the noise. He turned the phone face down and walked to the window. Outside, a group of children were building snowmen. Lila joined him, tugging his sleeve. "Are we going outside?" she asked. He smiled. "Only if you promise not to beat me at snowball fights." Her laughter rang through the air, light and pure. Later that day, the same woman from Child Services returned. But her face was softer now, almost smiling. "Mr. Danner," she said, handing him a folder. "You've been approved for temporary guardianship." Miles blinked, surprise catching him off guard. That was fast. "Christmas miracles, maybe," she said, glancing at Lila. The girl ran toward him, her arms wrapping around his waist. "Do I get to stay?" she asked. Miles knelt down, eyes glistening. "As long as you want," he whispered. In that moment, he understood something money had never taught him. Sometimes the richest thing a man can own is the life he saves.